Hi guys, welcome. I'm Miss Robinson, and I'm here to talk to you about some literary terms that you're going to want to know and understand this year in English 2. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so that you can see the PowerPoint a little bit better. So let's go ahead and get started with these literary terms. We're going to start with two, connotation and denotation. And I'm guessing you've heard these terms before. You're probably pretty familiar with them. But let's talk about them a little bit and discuss the grave importance of these words. Now, you know that denotation is simply the dictionary definition, the actual definition of a word. Connotation is that emotional association that you bring about, that is brought about in you when you hear the word. Look at here, this terrific little example here, inquisitive, curious, and nosy. Would you rather be called nosy or inquisitive or curious? Clearly, you would rather be called inquisitive or curious. Nosy has nothing but a negative connotation to it. If you were going to talk about, say, your teacher, you would say, oh, my teacher is very authoritative, or you would say, oh, my teacher is very bossy. Both those words mean the same thing, don't they? But authoritative has much more of a positive connotation. Bossy has very much a negative connotation. Authoritative is more respectful, something that other people, when they read it, they're like, oh, authoritative, that's a good thing. But bossy, oh, not so much. So guys, why are these important beyond just the general, okay, we got that, we understand that? Well, authors work really hard to control the way you think with their words. And connotative words do a wonderful job of that. If someone is wanting you to dislike something, let's say they're writing something on a political candidate that they don't like, they're going to use lots of negatively connotative words. And if you agree with that person, you may not even pick up on all the connotation that's used. If you disagree with the person and their views, then you're like, oh, you're using a lot of negative connotation in here that you didn't have to use. As a critical thinker and a critical reader, it's imperative that we learn to pick out those connotative words that are basically almost like loaded language, because we need to be able to see it to make sure that we're getting the actual message, not just the opinionated or biased message that the author wants us to have. Often though, guys, if you agree, like I said, you're not going to catch the connotation. So it's a great exercise if you want to think more critically and you want to read more critically, for you to go and read articles with which you agree with the author's bias, you agree with the author's tone, you agree with the author's subject matter and even the theme. Go through, read through articles like that, and find the connotative words. That really shows that you're thinking and reading critically when you can pick them out even when you agree. So keep in mind, connotation is more important than what we think a lot of times. All right, so figurative language. Sorry, my little thing is over that, but this says if people literally die of embarrassment, how are they still alive? Great question. So figurative language is meant figuratively, not literally. When you read figurative language, they're words and phrases. It's the use of words and phrases that is not the literal meaning. Instead, figurative language creates impactful meaning by using words in uncommon, non-literal ways. So let's look at a few of them. We're only going to talk about three today. There are multitudes, many, many, many words that fall under, or terms that fall under figurative language. Here you can see just a few of them over here. Simile. I know you know simile. Comparing two things, or using the words like or as. So you're using words or phrases to compare two things, using the words like or as to kind of link them together. Then you've got metaphor. Well, a metaphor is a little more sophisticated. It's a comparison between two unlike things in order to make a comparison. It's often two things that you wouldn't link together at all, but they fit quite well in the metaphor to make a certain comparison. And then finally, personification, giving something that's or not human, human-like qualities. So let's take a look at some examples. And again, I'm going to have to talk you through this one. Sorry, my little webcam's in the way. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. Guys, what do you think that is? Simile, metaphor, or personification? I bet you guessed personification. They're personifying death. Death is not a person. Death can't be this kindly man that stops for you. So number one is definitely personification. Let's look at number two. She tried to get rid of the kitten, which had scrambled up her back and stuck like a bird just out of reach. Oh, what a great example that is of what, guys? Simile. Stuck like a bird just out of reach. And let's look at it a little bit further. They're comparing what to a burr? Don't say stuck to a burr. They're comparing that kitten to a burr. And not just a burr, but a bird just out of reach. If you've ever had a burr, often I've had them on my socks, especially when I was a child and would be running through grass for whatever reason. I get a lot of burrs stuck on my socks. If you've ever tried to pull one off, they're hard to pull off. And also, often they're prickly and they kind of hurt. So you've got this kitten with their little prickly claws. It's on her back just out of reach, like a bird just out of reach. What a beautiful, beautiful simile. Let's look at number three. Pearl buttons swung on the little gate in front of the house of boxes. It was the early afternoon of a sunshiny day with little winds playing hide and seek in it. Wow, that was beautiful. And it was a beautiful example of what? Personification. Little Winds playing hide and seek. Wind doesn't play anything. It's not a human. It doesn't play. But what a nice way to let the reader know that there were little bits of wind. It was a sunshiny day, but it wasn't overly hot because there were these nice little winds blowing around, these sweet little breezes that didn't really cause any trouble. Not like big winds from hurricanes or from storms, just nice little breezes that were playing hide and seek. What a wonderful example of personification. Let's look at number four. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is east, and Juliet is the sun. I know you know that quote most likely. What is happening there? What type of figurative language is that? That's right, it's a metaphor. Pretty simple metaphor, right? Juliet is the sun. Juliet's being compared to the sun. Is he literally saying she's the sun? She's going to burn us all up? Of course not. Most likely, he's comparing her radiance, her beauty, the fact that it's bright and amazing. He's comparing that part of the sun to Juliet. So Juliet is radiant. Let's look at number five. Our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feasts of the mind. That's a pretty amazing quote. And what do you see in there? I'll give you a hint. There's two of them. That's right, they're metaphors. So our words are but crumbs. That's the first one. Words are being compared to crumbs. Our words are nothing more than crumbs. When you think of crumbs, they're the little bits left over, the tiny little insignificant bits left over, right? So showing us how tiny our words are and how much more they could be. But look at the other one in here, that fall down from the feast of the mind. So you can't really say feast is being compared to mind here. Feast of the mind is one thing that's actually being compared to our thought, okay? So the feast, our thoughts are being compared to a big feast. Our thought is being compared to a feast. So the words that come out of our thought, they're just little crumbs. In other words, there's so much more going on in our thoughts that never get made into words. Pretty amazing example of two metaphors in one sentence. So the next word is juxtaposition. Here's a great example of juxtaposition. You've got dream way on a dead end. So juxtaposition is when an author places two concepts or two characters or two ideas or two places or anything like that next to each other so that the reader sees the contrast, the comparison and the contrast. This is a great example. Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. So they're showing two different things here. Happy families compared to unhappy families, and the fact that they're all alike as compared to unhappy families are all not alike. They're all different in their own way. So basically, here they're saying happy families, they're pretty much all happy for the same reasons. But our unhappy families, the polar opposite, the flip side of that, unhappy families, they're unhappy for many different reasons. So again, a really strong and powerful quote there, and the opening of a novel that is pretty amazing. So, guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me or any of your teachers. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.